keep your plant, keep your lamps trimmed and burning, and be ready when the bridegroom comes. I got oil in my vessel, keep your lamp trimmed and burning, and keep ready when the bridegroom comes. Oh, amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. I was blind, but now I see. I got oil in my vessel, keep my lamp trimmed and burning, and be ready when the bridegroom comes. I got oil in my vessel, keep my lamp trimmed and burning, and be ready when the bridegroom comes. And be ready when the bridegroom comes. There were 10 women that would be able to be there. 5 women stayed at one house, and 5 women stayed at another. And in both houses, the women prepared themselves, for you see, they were part of the bride's party. They were going to be there to greet the bridegroom as he came in and open the door to him to where the bride would be waiting for him. And oh, the celebration it would be. And so in this house and in this house, they prepared themselves. Oh, ladies, you would have loved their preparation. Gentlemen, you can take a peek into the doors with me. Each of those women, they all went into a luxurious bath. And it was filled with perfumes. And it was soft on the skin. And they washed themselves from head to toe. And when they came out, not only were they clean, they smelled good. They washed their hair, and they did their hair all up. And just like Jewish young women do, they put all inside of their hair. They put ribbons all down, and it looked beautiful and curled around. And then they began to dress themselves, and they put on these beautiful colors of bright yellows and bright pinks and bright greens, and this beauty that they put that flowed down and around them. Then they began to put on the jewelry, and they put on bracelets around their wrists that wrapped all the way up their arms. Toe rings around their little toes, and ankle bracelets with little bitty fake bells that would tingle along the way when they stepped upon the ground. And around their necks they would put beautiful necklaces. And oh, they looked beautiful. And they decorated their faces up too. They pinched their cheeks so they were red, and bit their lips, and crushed up a little bit of the beetle that would make the red that they would put upon their lips and upon their cheeks. And they were prepared, the 5 in this house and the 5 in this house. And the 5 in this house, they went out immediately to where the bride's house was, but the 5 in this house, they did not go out immediately. Because each of them on both houses would have to take with them, some of these small lamps with them. They took these small lamps because the bridegroom sometimes took a long time to get there. And so they had these wonderful lamps that would light, and they would be able to be awake. But these 5 here went straight away with their lamps and their beauty, and they went to the bride's house. But this one here, one of them said, no, sisters. We need extra oil. Let us gather some extra oil, each of us, and we will take it with us. And they did, and they made their way there. Now I tell you, those women knew it could be quite some time, because you see, the man had to leave his own home, and mamas don't let their boys go too quickly. There was a great celebration happening at the man's house, and all his friends were there. They were celebrating and excited, and they were glad he was going to be leaving, but they didn't want him to run too fast. So they kept him around. So the girls knew they would wait. They all had checked in on the bride, and she was ready. And so now they sat outside waiting for the bridegroom. And they began to talk. You know how it is, ladies. First, they talked about how those two had met. And it went something like this. They looked in each other's eyes on that day, and everything seemed to come their way. And right there gonna be he and him, and ooh, that was gonna be a good day. Oh, they talked about that day and how beautiful that day was. Then they remembered when she first realized she was in love, the bride, and they started talking about that. Do you remember the day that she said, oh, I love him, yes I do. I can't get enough, oh, I can't get enough of you. And her eyes did sparkle, and her teeth did glitter white, and I knew she wasn't gonna get any more sleep on that night. They talked about that. You know how we talk about it, women. And of course they kept talking, and after a while they got tired talking about the two of them. And they started talking about themselves. And one of them said she was ready to get her old husband. I want a good looking man, and that's what I want. I want him that's strong and tall and everything I need. That's a good Jewish song. I don't think you know it. And so he sang, and they talked and they talked and they talked far into the afternoon, and until it was then night. And they took their lamps and they lit them. They lit the oil in their lamps, and they talked some more and they talked some more. And he was a long time coming. And they talked until they went to sleep. Here he comes, here he comes, here the bridegroom comes, here he comes, here he comes, here the bridegroom comes, here he comes, here he comes, here the bridegroom comes, here he comes, here he comes, here he comes, here he comes, here the bridegroom comes, here he comes, here he comes, here the bridegroom comes, here he comes, here he comes. They could hear it. The great party was coming. They could hear it, they couldn't see them. They knew they were down some street somewhere. They could see them, and each of the girls picked up their lamps, and each of the girls, all of them, realized that their lamps were running low. And so the 5 girls here picked up the extra oil they had, and they opened up their lamps and they poured the oil in. And the 5 here looked, and they were low on oil too. And they looked at the other girls and said, share with us some of your oil. Share with us your oil so that we can go inside. And the others here said, no, we can't share, else we may not have enough. We may hear them, but it still may be a while before they get here. Go out and see if you can get your oil. And so the girls ran. Those Jewish girls ran. They ran up and down streets. They knocked on doors and they banged and said, wake up, please, do you have oil? They walked over to cells, please, could you wake up for us? It was the middle of the night, wake up, please, could you help us, They ran up streets and down streets. They tried to avoid where any men might be, where they would see these single women, and they looked and they banged and they asked if there was oil. And they finally, all of them had enough oil, and they ran back to the house. They ran back to be with the bride. But when they got there, the door was closed. And they could hear on the other side of the door, there was celebration. And they banged on the door. Let us in, let us in. Let us in, let us in. His servant came to the door and opened it and just peeked out a little bit. What do you want? We're with the brides. We're with the bride. We're here, we're here. And he said, everyone that's supposed to be inside is already here. And he closed the door. I got oil in my vessel. Keep my lamp trimmed and burning, and be ready when the bridegroom comes. I got oil in my vessel. Keep my lamp trimmed and burning, and be ready when the bridegroom comes.